Good evening and welcome, everybody. I welcome you to Linda's Stampin' Escape. It is Tuesday, July 19th, 2022. I am excited to share my third presentation for World Watercoloring Month. If you are just hopping on, please. I see Beth. Hello there. Hope you are having a wonderful evening so far. And I thank you for joining me. Hello, Chris. It is a warm one. And it must be messing with my internet. Hello, Cheryl. Welcome, welcome. I noticed that it keeps going off. I hope I don't have trouble this whole time, so just wait a minute or two till we get a few more people joining us tonight, and then we'll get going. So, actually, I like to reward my prompt people. So we'll just kind of do a little review. So last week our first week we did the watercolor pencils, and then last week we did the watercolor wash background. So do you remember the 4 different patterns we used? This was our first one, and this is the card that I made with this one. So the foliage on here comes from Splendid Thoughts, and I will be using that again tonight. And then our second one, so that was just an ombre look. This was a mixing of 2 colors. And that is the card that I came up with for that one. Alrighty. All right, and then the third one was where we mixed in multiple, I'm trying to make sure I get this in frame here, multiple colors. So I turned this one into a very scary Halloween card. So this cute little, it's called Scary Halloween, but yes, it comes with these dies, which framed our background nicely, and then I punched out the moon, and then I used the leftover to put the greeting on. So hey, go crazy, you don't have to use these just for backgrounds. And then our last one was the one where I put salt on it. So I'm not sure if you see that, but you know, it just has little different marks on there. But this one, of course, you know me, I had to pull out the Wink of Stella and do my butterflies. But yeah, so I just cut that whole piece out, and then I put it back on there to give it some more dimension and a cute little look. But I'm not sure if you can see that shimmer, but it is there. So, because this one I used the watercolor paper on. But very pretty card. So, all right. So tonight, I mean, it's just, I love the watercolor, and we're going to be playing with it again. So before we get started, we just did our recap, and got to show you my finished products. So tonight I'm going to be using Good Feelings, and we are going to incorporate that watercolor wash background with embossing. So you're going to get a nice heat embossed, and then we're going to go over it with the water wash, creating a emboss resist. So we got the Versamark here, and I've got my little, I just put this here so I wouldn't forget to tell you that this was one of the items that I used when making this, so I can bring that back out. And I got to tell you, I've been using this a lot lately, so I took my platform from my old Big Shot, the magnetic one, and I stuck them on here so I wouldn't lose my pieces. So don't forget to repurpose all that stuff you have. Okay, and then these are pattern resin dots and some other goodies in here. So those are going to be our little prize for tonight. And our first card is going to start with Melon Mambo, Calypso Coral, and Crushed Curry. So, but we have to get our embossing done first. And yes, I know, ladies, I do have the old water painters, but the new ones work just as nice. But mine are still good, so, you know, I'm going to keep using them. Oh, and here sneaks in, he must want to be mentioned tonight since he just rolled into frame. But that is our Take Your Pick tool. I use that all the time. Handy, handy tool to have around. Okay, so I'm going to start with the shimmer white paper again for this one. So, ready to roll with that. So, I'm using Sending Sunshine and Good Feelings Your Way. So we're going to start with that, and we're going to flip this upside down because you get a better look at the coverage on your stamp. I do this especially with my large ones, but I try to do it with all because you don't get as much of that messiness around the edges there either. Ooh, I forgot my little buddy. The Embossing Buddy is back, ladies and gentlemen. I am excited to tell you that in the mini catalog on page 49, you will find the Embossing Buddy is back, and they brought the tray back. So if you guys were waiting for that, because I know that's a goodie, and I don't know where my tray ran off to, but I got my buddy next to me, so that's really good. But they are back, and I will put all of my supplies on my blog post tomorrow, or you will be able to see that if you are watching the YouTube replay. So if you're watching from YouTube, my replay from the live, then I will have all of the stuff posted for you as well. All right, so we're going to get our Embossing Buddy on there. I'm just going to re-ink this up a little bit, although it's Versamark, so it's probably just fine. All right, so let's get this on here. And I'm just using scratch paper because I couldn't find my tray. Might have to order another one. Wouldn't mind because I would like to have one for every color. All right, for this one, we are going to use the clear embossing powder. So I'm just going to sprinkle that over the top. And then I like to just slide this around a little bit. Make sure that I am getting in every single nook and cranny of my words. Tap that off. One little flick there. And then we'll use this to put it back. All right. Because on our next card, we are going to be using a white embossing powder. And yes, ladies, you heard me correctly. I said another card. All right. So, bringing out our heat gun. And the trick to this is, all you need to do is watch that dull powder turn shiny. And as soon as you get that shine, just move that away because you truly can over emboss. If it starts to get dull again, then you know that you've over embossed it and you've lost that beautiful shiny look along with that feel of embossing. That nice little texture. Okay, I do believe we have that all done. So we will turn off our gun for now. And we are going to bring out the big one. So let's get the big guy here. And these, all you do is squish them and you get your water to come right out. That's what's nice about the watercolor pencils. Excuse me, watercolor. Oh, I can't, okay. Is it Monday again? Okay, if you remember our technique from last week, you want it to be wet, but you don't want puddles. And we're going to grab our 3 colors, our crushed curry, and now you also know you have another use for your blocks. You can use them as palettes for your painting. This is our Calypso Coral. Get in there. And then a little Melon Mambo. All right. So we're going to really brighten this guy up. Woo! That guy's juicy. Okay, so we got those closed and out of our way. And I'm just going to bring this over one more time. There we go. In the watercolor brushes they have in the catalog right now, those actually have 3 sizes. So they have a nice thick brush that can brush on. We're going to start with our crushed curry. And again, we're going to start at that top and work our way down. And remember that you can always add more, but it's very hard to take away. There we go. Get a nice blend in there. And then I just brush off my paint over here. And we're going to add our Calypso Coral. So this one I'm just going to give a nice blend in the middle. Okay, and then I'm going to just gently, as my ink runs low in there, just gently bring that up into our yellow, which is crushed curry. I'm going to get a little bit more right in the middle there. There we go. And then I'm going to re-wet this down here a little bit. And I'm going to grab a little bit of that Melon Mambo. And this is dark, so we're going to start at that bottom and work our way up. Again, you can always add, but it's really hard to take away. So it's okay if it's dark down there. All right, and again, once you get to this point, just gently brush those 2 together. Give yourself a nice soft line. Isn't that gorgeous together? Woo! It looks like a rainbow. Now, you can take your heat gun and dry this out a little bit. Make sure that you don't sit over your embossing area too long, because you don't want to reactivate that. But see how that's popping through? Isn't that gorgeous? Of course, if I get my embossing gun out of the way, you can see it better. Look it, look it, look it. Isn't that gorgeous? Such a fun technique, and you can get these to blend a little more. I think it looks really nice. I wanted to make sure that you could see the words really good. Cheryl says, I love the 3 colors together. I know, they are pretty. I gotta say, I tried Poppy Parade down here, but it was a little bit too close to the Calypso Coral and didn't pop as much, and that's why I pulled in the Melon Mambo, and it really does give you an impact. So now, when that's all dry, that is when I pulled out my dies, and these are from the Scalloped Contours dies. So I used this one here, and I cut this out right here, and then I was trying to figure out what to mount it on, so I thought I tried a couple different colors, and I got to tell you, it really popped on the black. Of course it did. Look at the gorgeous colors. But I didn't want it to overpower, so I took the little guy that's supposed to be sitting right here, which is, I believe, on my table. See why I like this? Anyhow, I don't need to run and get that. I'm just going to show you what it does. It cuts out this little guy here. So I cut one in my Melon Mambo and placed it on the opposite end. Crushed curry I put down here. And then my Calypso Coral, I cut this piece in half and then just brought it in to give you a big pop of color all the way around. And then I put the fun little embellishments on there, and I took the little daisy punch and put a little daisy down there. So goodness gracious, this is really a fun card, definitely sending sunshine and good feelings. So this is just a fun, cute card. The black really makes everything pop, and I used a basic white card base to go with my daisy and to really pull that greeting color out. So how fun is that? And easy, such an easy card to make. Okay, now I want to show you one more technique. Getting a little more technical on this one. Let me move this little color tray away and cover up my crushed curry. And we are going to bring in our white embossing powder and an oblong block so we can get our colors on there. This one here is the watercolor paper, and I'm even going to use my buddy on this. Again, remember, the buddy's back, and you can find him in the mini catalog. Pear Pizzazz we're going to do. And we're going to pop that color on one end. And then Mossy Meadow. So I'm going to switch that around so that the dark color is on my right side, because I always like to go from light to dark. So whatever works best for you in placing that, that's what you're going to do. Okay, for this one, we are going to use Splendid Thoughts. I have been using this a lot lately. A lot lately. And my clubmate members can attest to that because we did it at our party. So this is the gorgeous set we're using again. And we're going to bring out that Versamark. We're going to grab this one. And this, again, is a little more detailed and a little bit different style than what we did on the water wash. So this one, you're actually going to do a little more painting. I'm going to bring this in, and I'm going to sprinkle my embossing powder first. Yes, I coat it well. And then I'm going to ink up another one. sure I'm not in my embossing powder, because I want this nice and juicy. There we go. Again, I'm going to give it a little jiggle, make sure it hits every nook and cranny. Usually I keep all my embossing powders in a little Tupperware container, but I had been using my tray. So I'm sure he's filled with gold or something that he wasn't handy for me tonight. But we're going to cover this back up. This is the white on watercolor paper. Again, watch carefully for that dull white powder to turn shiny. And even with that little ridging in our paper, I still got a nice impression with our stamps. So that makes me very happy and very proud to sell Stampin' Up, because they do have very well put together stamps. And besides, I love their imagery. Okay, so now we're going to do something a little different. Get my... Beth asks, are you using regular cardstock or watercolor paper? On this one here, I'm using watercolor paper. And on this one, I use the shimmery white. I never use basic cardstock for my watercoloring. So, all right, we're going to get to this one. And we're going to grab that blue one back. I just want to make sure I got this cleaned out so I don't have pink in there anymore. Just give it a nice little squeeze and it comes out clean. Rub it off on your paper. So we're going to wet this. And this can be a little juicier. All right. So on this one, I'm going to grab, let's bring our colors back in here. And we'll start with my light. And I'm just going to bring it in here. And you'll see that it kind of spreads nicely all by itself, because you have enough water. So you're going to get a beautiful variegated look with this. Again, less is more. We can always add, but it's very hard to subtract color. So, in there. And now I'm going to take just the tip and pop that into the dark one, and I'm just going to use Stampin' Up's lines to add some color. And see how nice that blends? There's just enough water in there yet to make it move. You can always add a little more water too if it looks a little too dry for you. But again, you can always go back and just add a little more. And the nice thing about using the watercolor pens here, these, is because it also contains water. So if you need a little more, you can just add. I am not squeezing at all. I am just using the water that we actually painted on there. So, isn't that fun? Can you imagine doing this with a rose? And I might just do one of those later and share that on my blog. Okay, so now I'm going to get, I want to dry this out a little, and this is the smaller brush, so I'm just going to take that, and I haven't squeezed any water into my tip yet. It's not dry because it's always wet, but I am going to add just a little more in there to give you that nice dark color. So it's a layering effect, really, when you're watercoloring, and you just layer more colors and more amounts. And look at how soft and pretty that looks. Gorgeous, nice variegated, real looking. Let me bring that up a little bit closer so you can see that. Debbie, you are just coming in late. You are not watching the replay. We're live right now, so welcome. All right. Now let's move to our bigger one. And I am not going to watercolor all of these at once. So I'm just kind of going to do one side and get that wet. And I'm going to come in with my light color like we did before. And I'm just going to bring some color all into those leaves. So you can pretty much color the whole leaf if you want to. Right? Can we do this one? Yep. So get some color in there. Now I'm going to take this small one again and get some nice dark color there. And I'm going to use Stampin' Up's lines and grab in some of that dark color. So where the leaf is turning, I'm going to go really dark. So you're going to see me layering that green on several times. And then I'm just going to come up here and just lightly edge around the leaf, so you get that nice multicolored look, but without getting too dramatic there. Here's another one where that is flipped, so I'm going to do this. Let's get that tip there. All right, and then add a little here. See, we're getting a little wet here, or a little dry, so let's just bring a little more water in, because I got this tip nice and juicy, so that is definitely my water fill there. And you can just go back over there, and you notice I did not clean that tip off, so it still has some of that color. So we're just adding a little bit more. And now I'm going to clean that out, because now I'm going to give it a wash the other side, and we'll paint over there. So if you're afraid it's going to dry, then by all means just do part of it. You don't have to do the whole plant, the whole flower. You can do like little pieces, and then you have a lot more control over it. We're going to go back to this one, grab that dark color, go underneath there to that leaf. Here, where that leaf is rolled, that's where I'm going. And then I'm going to put a lot down there. A little more here, a little more down there. So you're really getting a nice wash of color. Bring a little bit of that in. And then if you think that that color is too strong, take that brush and blend that back in. And then get it a little softer. So you can have this basically looking any way you want. It's all up to you. And watercolor is just about experimenting and playing. So just going to give that a little squeeze, get a little more water in there. And I'm going to add, now this is the same color. I didn't use the dark one yet. Now I'm going to come in with the dark, and we're going to go down here, and then I'm just going to edge this right here. And you're noticing that I have some lighter areas which will create a nice soft look as if the sun was shining on it. Okay, now let's color our stems. So we're just going to drag your brushes down there to pull some of that color in. And ooh, I'm going to go with the little skinny one and go a little dark here. And when it cuts out, because we're going to use the dies to cut these out, but I'm really teasing you tonight because guess what? You have to come on my blog tomorrow to see the finished card for this one. So I can't wait to meet you over there tomorrow, because then you can see this card all finished and what I did to it. And again, I'll have instructions on this one. I mean, you saw the painting part, but if there's anything else you need to see, but look at that color. Watercoloring is so much fun, and you're going to love it because it's going to make you look like an artist. And you saw how easy it was for me just to layer that color. That's all you're doing. The watercolor paper will dry a little bit faster than your shimmer, but I mean, it's just so fun to play with. So fun to play with. Don't let watercolor scare you. And you have the ink pads, so use them. I mean, you can use re-inkers, but I find I have a lot more control with color when I just put the color on my block instead of putting a full drop of ink, because watch what this does. I mean, that is a lot of intense color there. All right, and I'm just going to show you. Let's do a little sneaky corner that we're not going to use, so let's put that down there. But when you pull this in, it's intense. See what I mean? So I think, especially if you're just starting out, to use the block and just pad your ink pad onto the block and get this color, because you can pull color up, but when you work like that, that's really intense. And you know what? It's cool looking, don't get me wrong, and you can work your way up to that full ink drop, but I just think this is easier if you're just starting out with your watercoloring. So beautiful, realistic, soft watercolor look. So again, I am sharing that card tomorrow on my blog, and I will have the ingredients for both cards posted on my blog, and I will also put them on my YouTube page for anybody who is watching this on my YouTube. So I thank all you ladies for joining me live tonight, and I appreciate you joining me. Do not leave yet, because we have our drawing. And if you are looking for my blog, it is everything's under my name, Linda's Stampin' Escape. So you can find me under there. When you Google me, you will find my blog, and you will find my Pinterest page and everything else. So I appreciate it, everyone. And let's get to our drawing to see who's going to win these fun. They're called Playing with Pattern Resin Dots. And then there's just some little leftover ones in there that I just threw in there for fun. They are retired, so I won't be using them. So you know me, I just like to give it away. All right, let's bring our names in from last week. I appreciate everybody who comments, everybody who shares. That is the biggest form of flattery to me, when you share my cards and videos. I appreciate that. So, are you ready? Drum roll, and good luck, everybody. 3, 2, 1, good luck. All right, Beth, congratulations. you one are playing with pattern resin dots, and our extra little guys here, those are last year's in colors, I believe. So you all have a wonderful evening. Thank you again for joining me, and I'll meet you on my blog tomorrow. Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful evening. Good night.